Commissioner Gordon, Bane has escaped.
They cling to tomorrow, whispering its name like a prayer, a promise that the future will somehow deliver salvation wrapped in bright, forgiving light. It's a fantasy, a lie sold to the desperate and the dreamers. Tomorrow doesn't exist. It's a shadow they chase but never catch, an illusion that keeps them on their knees, hoping, waiting. But hope is a poison that numbs the will. When tomorrow is stripped away, all that remains is the raw, merciless now, the present moment. Hungry, insatiable, waiting to be seized or devoured. And for those who understand, those who have seen behind the curtain, there is only one truth. Today is a battlefield, and hesitation is a death wish. It's amusing, really, the way they place their faith in time, as if time owes them something, as if tomorrow will heal their wounds or make them strong. But strength isn't built on the backs of empty days, and wounds don't close just because the clock moves forward. No, real strength is born in fire, hammered into shape by the decisions made in the relentless present. The weak dream of tomorrow, the strong dominate today. The clock is not a friend. It's a weapon wielded by those who understand its power, who use each second as a blade to carve out their destiny. Tomorrow is the great escape, the convenient lie we tell ourselves to justify inaction. But life isn't a waiting game. There are no second chances, no better times lurking around the corner. Every choice, every breath is a gamble, a declaration of who we are right now. The world won't pause for their redemption arc, and time's mercy is non-existent. The future doesn't hold forgiveness, it holds consequences. And for those who have felt the edge of time's blade, who know what it means to live on borrowed hours, there is no fantasy of what comes next. Only the grim understanding that today is all there is, and it must be conquered. The illusion of tomorrow keeps them pacified, docile. It whispers sweet nothings of change and redemption, promises it never intends to keep. And how many have died waiting? How many have crumbled, hoping the world would turn gentler with the rising sun? There is a savage joke in it all, a cruel punchline that leaves the wise laughing in the darkness. Tomorrow is the con man, the thief that steals time from the living. Those who see through the charade know that the only way to cheat the clock is to make today your masterpiece of defiance. Power belongs to those who abandon the myth of tomorrow. It's funny, really, how they believe they can put off greatness, tuck it away until they feel ready. But readiness is another lie, a trap for the cautious. The truly powerful know that every moment is ripe for seizing, that hesitation is a luxury the bold cannot afford. While others wait for their stars to align, the conquerors carve their fate into the sky, burning bright and defiant, unafraid of the ashes they leave behind. Some speak of tomorrow with reverence, as if it's a promised land, waiting just beyond the horizon. They waste today's fire, dreaming of that mirage, pouring their will into fantasies that never manifest. But there's a grim humor in it, isn't there? Because the world keeps turning, merciless, indifferent. And while they wait, clutching their dreams like crutches, the world grows colder, harder, less forgiving. The wise have no patience for such folly. There is no tomorrow to be tamed, only the now, wild and savage, demanding to be conquered with blood and sweat. Inaction is a poison fed by the hope of tomorrow, a slow rot that eats at ambition, that drags the strong to their knees. It waits in the shadows, whispering of comfort, of delay. But delay is just another word for surrender, for admitting defeat before the battle even begins. Those who crave power know that today must be seized with both hands, that waiting is a sin that leads to ruin. They laugh at the dreamers, at the ones who wait for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment is a myth, a ghost that fades with the dawn. Some will say that patience is a virtue, that good things come to those who wait. But patience is just another name for complacency, a pretty word that hides the ugliness of lost potential. The world was never shaped by those who waited. It was forged by the ones who refused to stand still, who raged against the passing days. The clock is a cruel god, and it devours those who worship it. Only the defiant, the ones who act when others hesitate, are remembered in the annals of time. The rest? Forgotten, buried under the weight of what could have been. They'll tell you to have faith in tomorrow, to trust in what's to come. But trust is a fool's comfort, a pillow for the fearful to rest on. There is no safety in time, no guarantee that the future will be kinder. Those who know the harshness of life understand that every moment counts, that every breath is a wager. The future is not promised, and those who live like it is are already dead. Fear wears many faces, each more insidious than the last. It doesn't always come screaming in the night or dripping with horror. Sometimes it slithers in quietly, disguised as unease, anxiety, tension. These forms of fear don't shatter windows or roar like thunder. No, they worm their way into the mind, twisting thought after thought, creating a future that is nothing but shadows and knives. They thrive on too much future, feeding on worries that never materialize and anxieties that keep the strong awake, staring into the dark with fists clenched and jaws tight. The present becomes a casualty in this battle, a forgotten relic drowned in fears that may never come to pass. The past, too, wields a vicious blade. Guilt, regret, resentment. They strike like vipers curling around the throat, squeezing the air out of life itself. Each one is a poison born from memories that won't die, from mistakes carved too deep to be ignored. The past is a relentless tormentor, dragging the mind into old grievances, forcing it to relive sadness and bitterness that should have long since faded. But these ghosts cling to life, growing stronger with each act of non-forgiveness, each refusal to let go. The present becomes a cemetery haunted by spirits of regret and the ashes of what can never be changed. They are prisoners, these people who live chained to the past and the future, caught in an endless loop of suffering. Fear of what may come and pain over what has been gnaw at them, leaving them hollowed out and broken. They clutch their grievances and whisper to their worries, as if holding them tighter will change a thing. But all it does is rot the will, weaken the heart, and make puppets of the strongest souls. There is no freedom in this endless cycle, only decay. The past and future wage war, tearing apart the mind while the present, the only moment that ever truly mattered, fades away. The wise understand this. Those who have looked the demons of time in the eyes and laughed. They know that fear cannot exist in the now, that guilt has no teeth when it is met with presence. The moment we are in now, this breath, this heartbeat, is the only thing that cannot be touched by the shadows of what was, or the specters of what may be. The future is a game played by fear, and the past is a chain worn by regret. The present, however, is a knife. It cuts cleanly, sharply, and leaves nothing but raw reality in its wake. It is the weapon used by those who refuse to be ruled by ghosts. This isn't about finding peace or enlightenment. Peace is a luxury for the soft. This is about power, about tearing fear and regret apart with the sharpness of being present. The moment you embrace the present fully, fear loses its claws and regret becomes nothing more than a whisper. The wise know that holding on to anything but the now is weakness, that living in the past or future is a slow death. The present demands focus, an unwavering stare that dares time itself to try to shake it. Those who live here, in the now, are untouchable, fierce, and unyielding. Worry is a coward's game, a trap for those who think they can control what hasn't happened. Regret is a prison for those who think they can rewrite what is already carved in stone. But presence, that is the playground of the strong. Those who embrace it wield power like a weapon, cutting down every worry and regret with brutal efficiency. They know that what has passed and what is to come are illusions, distractions from the only reality that holds any meaning. And in this embrace of the now, they find a strength that the world doesn't understand, a fierceness that doesn't yield. Those who know the power of presence are dangerous. They are unburdened by fear, unbroken by regret. The past cannot haunt them, and the future cannot shake them. Each moment is a conquest, a declaration of their dominion over time itself. While others falter, trapped in their endless loops of pain and fear, these warriors stand tall. They have no chains, no ghosts trailing behind them, no worries eating away at their minds. They have stripped themselves of weakness, choosing instead to sharpen their will on the stone of the now, to live and act with the fullness of being that cannot be matched. In this life where everything is fleeting, presence is an act of defiance. It spits in the face of fear and shatters the hold of the past. To be fully here, fully alive in this instant, is to claim a kind of power that most cannot comprehend. It's to see the world for what it is, raw and untamed, and to meet it head on. The strong don't waste their breath on what may or may not come. They fight, they act, they live in the only moment that counts. Each breath is a challenge, each step a statement of their unstoppable will. The past and future, for all their hauntings, are illusions, and those who shatter these illusions walk a different path. The mind is a labyrinth, twisted and dark, built from echoes of what once was. Every thought, every feeling is born from the ruins of past memories, crawling out of the shadows of what we have experienced. Each memory wraps around the mind, staining it, shaping the way we think and feel. These thoughts and feelings are not random. They are whispers of the past trying to pull us back, to mold us into something familiar, something safe. But safety is a prison, and the cycle begins. An attitude forms, a predictable loop of short-term reactions, trapping us in our own history. Like a snake eating its own tail, this cycle tightens, creating a cage of repetition. Attitudes are deceptively simple. They seem like momentary states, small bursts of reaction. But in the darkness, they conspire. Each attitude, each flash of thought and feeling reinforces the others, binding together into something more insidious. It's like dripping poison, drop by drop, until the mind is infected. And when enough attitudes chain themselves together, a belief is born. A belief is a monster lurking in the subconscious, a more permanent state that shapes who we become. It digs deep, burying itself so thoroughly that it becomes hard to tell where it ends and we begin. The mind, once free, becomes a graveyard of beliefs inherited from our past. Beliefs are not harmless. They are the architects of our perceptions, the twisted glasses through which we view the world. Each belief clouds our vision, alters the way we interpret reality. We think we are choosing our path, but it's the beliefs that steer us, whispering in our ear, driving us toward familiar places, familiar people, familiar pain. Perception is not reality. It's a nightmare spun from memories we didn't choose to leave behind. And yet perception is everything. It decides how we act, how we react, who we trust and who we fear. It chains us to realities built on old wounds, old lessons that never really healed. There's a dark magic to perception. It weaves itself into our choices, shapes our behavior, dictates the relationships we enter and the ones we destroy. We think we are free, but our freedom is an illusion crafted by ghosts of the past. Our choices aren't ours. They are echoes, shadows moving us along paths carved long before we even realized it. Perception becomes our reality, and most never escape this trap. They wander through life, eyes wide open but blind to the way their past controls them. Puppets of a history they can't shake. It's a sinister game the mind plays, locking us in these cycles. Each thought, each feeling reinforcing the bars of a prison built on the ruins of yesterday. And so we live out patterns that feel familiar, choices that feel comfortable, never realizing that our comfort is a lie. We are creatures of habit, chained to routines that feed on our past, and we call it life. But what kind of life is that? What kind of existence is one where perception, born of old beliefs, leads us in circles, forever repeating the same mistakes, the same heartbreaks, the same sins? Breaking free requires a reckoning. To rip apart beliefs, to shatter perceptions, one must stare into the darkness of the mind and confront the demons that live there. It's a violent act, a rebellion against everything we thought we knew about ourselves. But few have the stomach for it. It's easier to live with the lies, to accept the stories our past has written, than to tear it all down and start anew. The past clings to us like a parasite, feeding off our ignorance, and the mind protects it, fearing what lies beyond. Those who do rise above the past, who cut through the web of beliefs and see the world for what it truly is, understand that perception is a weapon. It can shape reality, or it can be shattered. But for most, it's a double-edged sword that cuts them down before they ever learn to wield it. The brave understand that to master perception, to bend it to one's will, is to control the world around them. The weak let it rule them, living out lives scripted by wounds they never chose to heal. Imagine a mind so sharp that it cannot be fooled by the ghosts of its past. A mind that has shattered every illusion, that has made belief and perception its slaves rather than its masters. That is the goal, the dark prize that waits for those willing to descend into their own mental abyss, to rewrite perception, to burn old beliefs to ash, and to create a reality not based on fear, but on a will strong enough to bend the world. Only the strongest dare to play this game, and only the victorious emerge as something more. The rest? They live in loops, slaves to their memories made long ago. But there's no sympathy for them, no pity for those who refuse to confront the shadows. To be ruled by the past is to forfeit the only moment that matters. Because when you understand that perception creates reality, you understand the brutal, inescapable truth. There is no tomorrow. Every day began with a ritual of intent, a dark communion between will and the unknown force that slumbers deep within. No random acts, no careless prayers thrown to the void. The mind was a weapon, precision forged, honed to command the intelligence lurking in the deepest recesses. First, I would pour every ounce of conscious energy into this dark intelligence, sharpening it to a deadly point. I would give it a plan, no, a command, a vision so exact it left no room for doubt. Each order was laced with power, demanding, not asking, a blueprint for the world I wanted carved out from shadows and ash. Surrender, they say, is for the weak. But this was no gentle surrender. This was an act of supreme control, masked as letting go. I would release the reins to that greater intelligence, that force capable of remaking reality, and demand it do my bidding. Its power was limitless, capable of twisting fate itself, but I never let it sense weakness. Never let it think it had the upper hand. Even in surrender, I wielded control, a puppeteer guiding unseen strings. Healing was not something granted. It was something seized, taken by the power I allowed to move through me, to work its dark miracles. Every thought was a soldier in this mental war. Discipline was non-negotiable. Let one stray thought slip through and the whole fortress could crumble, the enemy storming the gates with doubt and chaos. So, I stood guard at the entrance of my mind, ruthless, unblinking. Only those thoughts that served the vision that fed the power were allowed to stay. If a whisper of weakness crept in, I crushed it with the force of wool. No thought was innocent, no feeling benign. Each one was scrutinized, and anything unworthy was extinguished before it could infect my reality. The world has a way of tempting the mind to wander, to flirt with distractions, with fear, with the lure of easy thoughts. But I knew better. Each stray idea was a saboteur sent to undo the careful work, the ritual of intent. The mind is a palace or a prison, depending on who rules it. And I would be its tyrant, its absolute master. No idea that weakened me, that stole focus from the vision, was allowed to live. This was war, and only the strongest thoughts would make it past the barricades, aligning with the vision I had set in stone. They call it manifestation, but that word is too weak, too soft. This was a conjuring, a summoning of power from realms unseen. Healing wasn't a gift. It was a command that dared the universe to obey. And every day, I offered this dark power a blueprint. My desires laid bare, stripped of modesty. I knew that intelligence needed specificity, needed to know exactly what to create. Vagueness was weakness. The vision had to be vivid. Painting splashed in blood and willpower. Only then would this great intelligence bend reality to my will. Only then would it work in my favor. The intelligence within isn't some benevolent spirit. It's a force, raw and primal, capable of unimaginable creation or destruction. To wield it is to flirt with chaos, to command it with an iron will or be consumed by it. I gave it orders because to give anything less would be foolishness. I trusted it, but only as much as one can trust a caged beast. An ally only because it had been trained, not because it had any love for its master. And so I let it do its work, always with a watchful eye, always prepared for a rebellion from the depths. Awareness is a blade, sharp and unforgiving. To keep it honed, I never let it rest. Every second was a test, a chance to slip, to let in a thought that could weaken the mind's fortress. But I never faltered. The mind is a wild thing, a beast that must be chained and tamed, or else it will run rampant. In those moments of discipline, I felt the surge of power, the thrill of absolute control. The world bends to those who can master themselves, who can stand as sovereigns over their inner chaos. Only then can the greater intelligence work its dark wonders, remaking reality to match the vision. Thoughts, feelings, beliefs, all tools or all traps. Every day I sharpened my mind, knowing that one lapse would be fatal. This was a game played on the edge of a knife, a dance with the forces that govern reality. Others let their thoughts run wild, foolishly thinking they are harmless. But I knew the stakes. Let one wrong thought breed and it becomes an attitude, then a belief, and finally a perception that warps everything. Perception creates worlds. The wise play God with their own minds, sculpting reality with the precision of a master craftsman, each thought a chisel strike shaping destiny. It takes a villain's discipline to hold that level of control, to stare down the chaos of the mind and win every time. To bend that intelligence to one's will is not for the timid or the weak. Every breath, every heartbeat must be a part of the ritual, a constant reaffirmation of the vision.